1580 103.3 WPKY, Tess and Ty and Coffee Talk, 8:05 this morning.
Well, we've got a slight chance of a shower or thunderstorm. A high today of 92. Chance of showers continues tonight, a low 72. And those slight chance of storms continue for Tuesday as well, a high near 90 with low 71 Tuesday night under partly cloudy skies. And the 4th of July looking like a slight chance of showers as well with a high of about 89. But again, for today, 40% chance of showers this afternoon, a high near 91, 74 WPKY.
$15.80 103.3 WPKY with Tess and Ty and Mr. Bridgie Miller at 8:06 on Coffee Talk. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Well, always. Thank you for having me. And I think this is the first time that I've been on here, and there's been not one but two, so I feel special. You and Ty both here this morning.
Morning, Bridgie. Thank you.
Good luck. We can be a handful.
There you go. Well, and anytime I'm on here, I always like to start off by telling the boss hello. So, Beth Mann, hello, how are you doing? Always good to hear you, and appreciate, again, the Beth Mann and her team, which you all are part of, for bringing WPKY in this community, on it, keeping it in the community and keeping it going on it. So, good morning, Beth.
We say that all. We say how much we love them, and we have the best bosses ever.
We do.
We really do. And you know, I know that sounds, you know, oh, yeah, she's saying that. But no, we really do.
Well, see, good thing about it, I can say it.
There you go.
There you go. And it's not scripted or nothing like
Right.
that. So
exactly
anyway.
right.
But again, we do appreciate Ham Broadcasting and Communications and Beth and the whole team for being able to have you here. So again, thank you.
Well, you know, you did me a big favor. That last week I called him. Of course, we talked about everybody and let everybody in on that we were going to talk about this today and kind of tune in this morning. It's kind of a hot topic. It seems like you can't go anywhere without, you know, somebody bringing it up. It's the water cooler conversation right now, but it's on this concealed weapon law that just got passed.
Carrying concealed deadly weapon law on it. As background, and let me just say this. If you have questions about the carrying concealed deadly weapon law on it, contact the sheriff's office, contact local law enforcement, contact county attorney's office. Then what we're going over is just our opinions, how we view it and look at it. So to be able to get the true scoop, I guess, or whatever on that, and we'll give the best that we can analysis with it, but call them to find out what the law says. But under the old law, which was in effect, I believe, since I want to say back in the 90s of it, to be able to carry a weapon concealed, meaning on your person, you know, over a coat, underneath a coat with it, you know, in your pocket, whatever, you had to go through a class. And that class, I have a carrying concealed deadly weapon permit on that, and I'll have to say I enjoyed the class. The class was very beneficial to me on it, because not only did it show me some things about how to shoot, what to look at, but also gave some scenarios on it, and also the law with it. And you have, and you know, I don't want to say, well, it's real simple to go through, but no, it's something that is thought-provoking on it, and we need to be able to look at that. So I would encourage anyone to keep doing that, to keep going with the class on it. And it's odd that I started off with this one. I had the opportunity to talk with our Caldwell County Sheriff, Stan Hudson, and he had told me, he said, Bridgie, you know, be sure if you would mention on this that he echoed, it's very important that you still consider to take that class. One, for the safety aspect that we just talked about and for the learning that you have with the class. But two, there are other states that have reciprocity with the state of Kentucky. And that reciprocity means that if you go to their state, they honor the carrying concealed law. But the law that they honor is one from 98, not the one that went into effect this past Thursday, which means you don't have to have the permit. So if you go to another state, you know, and you have the carrying concealed and you don't have the permit, they're not going to honor that on it. So it's very important. The reciprocity does not apply to the new law.
Well, and a lot of people will say, well, that's, you know, I'm not going on vacation anytime soon. You don't think about, you know, if we go shopping just a couple hours down the road, we're in Tennessee or Indiana or Illinois.
Exactly.
We're very quickly, if we're on the lake, you know, I'm quite sure those laws are different as well.
You don't take one to Illinois.
No. You know, you have to be careful. It's not just what you can do here at home, But it's also, when you're on the road traveling, you could cross that line very quickly before you understand.
Exactly. And also with the law, basically, talks about that allows Kentuckians age 21 and older who are legally eligible to possess a firearm to carry it without a license or without the permit on it. Now, let me just say this. There's still restrictions on you being able to have it without a license, okay? There's still restrictions. There's still places you can't go with that. So don't just think you've got a free grass or free pass to be able to take it anywhere. You still have to know the law on it. And that's why I think that it's important to be able to take that class for the safety aspect, but also to be updated about the law as well on it. So, it's important that you do know that. But anyway, the law that went into effect last Thursday was Senate Bill 150, and it allows carrying concealed firearms on your person with it without, having to have the permit on that. So, and that's an important thing that we able to be able to look at on what we have to do. It eliminates basically the 6-hour gun safety training course, about background check, and the payment of the cost and the fee for that license on it. So, to be able to look that, but just some basic, and I'm not going over all the restrictions, so don't think I'm getting into all of them with it or whatever. But some of them say that you cannot carry on a gun if you have a felony conviction. Okay,
Right.
That's a no-no. There is a law out there that felons cannot be in possession of weapons on it. So and that's felony. It's a if I remember correctly, it's Class D felony, minimum 1, maximum 5 years imprisonment on that. You cannot carry a gun openly or concealed in courthouses that house the court system, okay, or anything related into the court system. You cannot take it into federal buildings on it. There's federal law and the state law with it. You can't go into federal buildings on it. And also private property owners. And part of the class that I took went over certain things about private property owners can prohibit firearms from their premises on it. Also, certain businesses as well can look at that also on what they're looking on it. So
Now, that'll be on the door a lot of times when you go in.
Exactly.
Right?
When you see that goes on the door on what you need to do on it. And let's remember, no matter how we have weapons or how you view weapons, and I'm a big proponent of the Second Amendment on it, the right to bear arms on it. That's what our country, one of the things, it's the Second Amendment. So it was number 2 on it. Now,
Right.
not ranking in any type of order with it, but that was very important, the right to bear arms. I'm a big proponent of that, but we need to be safe when we're looking at it, when we do it, because not only are you affecting just you, but someone else out there as well. I'm sure as you all have probably heard before on it, when driving, there's more at risk out there than just you on it. And when driving, they've always said, you have to watch for yourself, have to watch what you're doing, but watch the surroundings about you. You have to be conscious as to what you're doing on things. So, so just be careful out there with that law. But the law has gone into effect. There's pros and cons that you look at either way with it. And, some of the pros that you say, well, if you're able to come in and have a weapon on it, what difference does it make if you have to have a permit to have it concealed or not concealed on it? Another one that the opponents that you say, well, you're eliminating the class, you're eliminating the safety concerns. And I want to talk a moment about law enforcement. Okay, law enforcement has a tough job on whatever they do. Okay, people think, well, law enforcement officers get hurt more when they go to some known shooting that they have out there. From what I was told, law enforcement officers put themselves at risk more and have more problems for them, either injury or fatalities, when they approach a vehicle, when they stop it. You think about it. You see somebody coming, that's a law enforcement officer. You sort of anticipate what's going to happen. When he or she gets out of that vehicle, they do not know.
And I was going to ask you, Bridgie, you bring up a very important point. Many of us carry with a permit, some of us won't, but if you are stopped, maybe just for a minor traffic violation, you're carrying, of course, if you are permitted, most of the time when they run a license or whatever, a dispatcher knows that there's a CC, that there's the concealed carry, the person has a permit. What is best practice, in your opinion, of course, for those of us that may have a concealed weapon in our vehicle when we get stopped? And do we put both hands on the wheel and immediately tell the officer, hey, I have a concealed weapon in this certain spot? Do we say anything? Do we reveal that? What is best practice there to keep us safe? If the officer asks us to touch the weapon and get it out, do we put our hands on the weapon? That's something that is, it has been controversial in some instances where, someone has put their hand on a weapon and then it could be misinterpreted as a threat. So let's be careful there.
Ty, let's take the first part of your question, because that was one that I have addressed numerous times. Forget about the weapon.
It's a firearm. It's a firearm. Don't call it a weapon.
Yeah, let's forget about a firearm for a minute. Let's just look at the first part of your question. Now, what do you do when you're stopped by a law enforcement officer? Okay? When I was county attorney, when I was talking with law enforcement officers, I asked them that question. And they said, we want to see your hands. Mm-hmm. Okay? So, you just got through saying it. Have your hands on that steering wheel. Don't be fiddling somewhere else where they can't see your hands, because generally I would say, common sense wise, if there's going to be a problem, it's going to involve your hands of some sort with it. Okay? Reaching for something or whatever. If they can see your hands, that's what they need. I would keep my hands on it. Now, I'm just talking about me. Okay?
Right. This is just your opinion.
Yeah, just my opinion with it. Okay? I'd keep my hands on the steering wheel on it. And also, the officer will come in and will tell you what he or she wants done. Okay? Mm-hmm. They'll tell you whatever. I would just look for me, if I had my carry and conceal with me and I'm stopped by law enforcement officer on it, I've got to look at a known versus an unknown on something. Okay? For me, I'm going to tell him, officer, I have a weapon here. I'm not going to reach for it. I'm not going to pull it out and show it to him or whatever, unless he so directs me to do that. Okay? Now, I know what you're saying. Anything can happen or whatever like that, but I've got to be comfortable in my own skin what I'm going to be doing. Okay? I'm going to tell him, I have a weapon. Here it is. I've got a permit, but this is what I'm going to be doing, because I don't want any misunderstanding, okay, as to what's going to happen, because when it comes down to somebody having a gun, he's got gun, or he or she have gun as well, okay? And, they're there for one reason on stuff. And so I want to be sure that officer knows, what I have, okay? And if he tells me to get out of the car, and it's just about like anything. When I talk to law enforcement officers, you follow our directions. We will tell you what to do on it, okay? And I've also heard this, and it just makes sense. If I were to come in here all belligerent with you all or whatever, what are you all going to do?
Yeah.
I would hope that you'd still be courteous or whatever like that. But, you always heard you catch more flies with honey
than you do vinegar.
Yeah, exactly. So, be courteous to the officer on what's being done. But I think hopefully I've answered what I would be looking at.
I think so.
But seeing the hands is the important thing that I would be looking at. Okay.
Well, I know that some people don't think about it. They think about how nerve-wracking it is for them to be sitting in the car. I can't tell you how nerve-wracking it is and how stressful. Their heart goes about 1,000,000 miles an hour when they're walking up to a vehicle that they have no idea who is sitting in that vehicle. Not only the driver's seat, it's not necessarily the person registered to that license plate. It could be anybody sitting in the car.
That's true.
They could have any kind of an intention. So when the police officer comes up to the side of the vehicle, they're not, stressed out just because it's you. Don't be offended that they're, stressed out that it's you. They're stressed out because of the unknown, and the unknown can be a very deadly place for a law enforcement officer.
Let me go further with that on it. You're talking about the unknown or what have you. I never, as long as I'd been, as county attorney, I never even had thought about this or whatever. Several years ago, I got stopped for speeding. Okay, state trooper came, and nice, we were talking everything. A big tractor trailer came by. The suction that he had almost took his hat off on it. And I could tell, then he sort of bounced up on the vehicle a little bit. I didn't realize the suction between that and my vehicle, even to the point I even told him, I said, Trooper, you want to get in the vehicle with me, or can I get in with you or whatever? I said, because I was running through my mind, if something were to happen, he's out there stopping me. And I was thinking, they go through that every time they stop somebody.
Every day.
But I was not aware of that. So, officer safety is more, and let's face it, they're out there working for us. They're out there, safeguarding us on it. And I know that, they've got a job to do, but let's try to make it easier for them as to what they do on it as well. Because bottom line, none of us wants to see anyone hurt or anything like that.
Not at all.
So with that, I mean, with the carry and conceal that we talked about, Remember the reciprocity on it. Remember the safety factors that you look at. And let's also remember that, when you have that weapon, what it can do. And it's not there just for show. It has a function. And with that function, let's be sure that, how we use that weapon and what we do. And I'd say same thing, I know they have hunter safety courses that we had. Like I said, the carry concealed deadly weapon course I took, was invaluable to me on things. Also, what he was showing me on some shooting stances, on stuff I wouldn't have gotten any other way. So again, and to paraphrase or also go over what our Sheriff Hudson was talking about earlier, I mean, the safety factor that you have by being able to take that course and going to another state as well.
What do you say to those folks that go, I don't want anybody to know, they're tracking me with that permit and all that stuff. You have these folks out here that are worried about it. I have one, and I'm glad I have it. I like it for the reciprocity aspect of it. So when I travel. But what do you say to those folks that are kind of, I don't think I'm going to get a permit because I don't want anybody tracking me or knowing? What's your opinion on that?
Well, I can only again speak for me on it, Ty. I wanted it. I wanted to have it for all the factors that I've just given on that. And I probably would look at it and say, okay, look at twofold. Wouldn't you like to know that you've got it? Plus, wouldn't you like other people to know out there as well? Or that you can say to yourself, okay, I've had this training not only for me, but for others out there as well, too. That I know some things. And let me tell you, I learned some stuff, okay, when I took the class. So, I would look at it both ways. Not do it for yourself, but do it for others also.
Well, and it's also a refresher course because there are a retired military, that maybe don't necessarily have to go through the same course and jump through the same hoops that other people do. Certain areas of law enforcement don't as well. So there are different laws about that. But, even taking the refresher course, that's not a bad idea because, there's little things like, what do you do? Is a hunter, when we go hunting, is that considered, am I now carrying? I mean, what is that considered? Is it different?
You make a very good point because, Bridgie, what you learn in those classes about the law is it's force meeting force. If you're carrying and someone is stealing your car, that does not give you means to shoot that person. You cannot do that. That is against the law. It is equal force, correct? It's deadly force versus deadly force.
Well, I think what you're looking at or what you're coming up on, I had a police officer explain to me one time on it, and these are trainings that they go through. They said, what if we come up to a fight or a situation and there are two individuals and they both have guns drawn? What do we do? You think about it. Law enforcement officers have to make split-second decisions. And so what do you do when you see two weapons drawn? And that's something they have to look at. They have to assess the situation. I always said law enforcement has to take care of three things. One, they have to assess the situation right there. Two, they have to come up and resolve the situation to the best of their ability. And then three, they also have to look at have they followed certain procedures to be able to get that done. And then if you throw a fourth one in there that you look at, there's usually when a situation occurs, there's other people that might come up on the scene. You have to be sure about their safety as well, or watch them as well when they come up. So a lot of variables go into effect. And first and foremost, that I'd always say about let's be safe when we do this.
Well, and I'm talking about the average carrier.
Right.
It's late at night. You come out of somewhere and you see somebody fiddling around your car. That does not give you license to shoot anybody. So what my point I'm making. I mean, that's just they're just stealing property. They might not be threatening your life.
Mm-hmm.
So the point is, you can't just get out a gun and shoot them. You have to. In the training I've had is that the law says that you have to feel like your life is threatened before you can protect yourself with your firearm. I mean, it's force matching force.
Well, and I was to say just for me as well. Okay. And I don't call it being chicken or whatever like that, but if I can avoid a situation on that,
exactly,
I'm going to try.
De-escalate.
Yeah, I'm going to try to avoid it because you never know what happens when that occurs on it. And two things: Somebody can get hurt. I can get hurt.
Exactly.
Okay?
Well, nobody wants to back down at that point.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
if you're the first one to back down, a lot of times you're the first one to lay down. And that's a scary situation.
Yeah.
And, you know, we had talked about it before about even walking into businesses and that sort of thing. The law, I think a lot of people are having questions on, can we walk into businesses? Well, how do we know we can? Well, when I go in, if they tell me to get out, well, do I have to? You know, there's some ego that goes along with that,
Yes.
you know, and some misinformation. That's what I think I fear more than anything for people, especially young folks, that, you know, they get, it's the grapevine and they want to tell each other and they want to, you know, they feel big and bad, you know, they've got that gun on their hip, but they don't know the laws. And, you know, they ag each other on and they give each other misinformation. And that was one of my goals, you know, when we talked the other day about you coming on. I said, you know, if we can trust anybody to know the law, it's you. And
Well,
I said, you know,
thank you on it.
could
What-
really explain all of this for us.
You know, again, what I would come back and look at, I would contact the sheriff's department. I mean, the law, carrying concealed deadly weapon law is KRS 527.020. First thing I'd tell you to do is read it. Okay? Reading can be, you know, they talk about reading.
Reading is fundamental.
Reading is fundamental. And, you know, reading can also give you some knowledge on things. First thing I'd tell you is to read, but then also call law enforcement as to what they say with it, you know, what they look at doing on stuff. And like you was talking about with the business owners on it, you know, what do they say about their business and what they have, what they want to look at. I'd call law enforcement and talk with them. As a segue as to what we had talked about on these laws, what you look at, I also want to go into one that's gone into effect today in the state of Tennessee. Talked about drivers in Tennessee now could face fines because it is an offense if you come in and are on your cell phone. And you're thinking, now wait a minute, you know, you mean I can't drive down the road and talk on my phone? Not in Tennessee anymore. It says you can't do that. Individuals caught using handheld cell phones, you know, behind the wheel starting today, you know, is a new law that goes into effect there. And Tennessee joins 18 other states with handheld cell phone use bans for drivers. So
That's having it up to your ear with one hand, I guess.
exactly. And also if you're talking or whatever, law enforcement, when they drive by and can see that, they can stop you for that on it. You know, it's but 18 states is what they've had now in Tennessee. And you think, well, I'm not in Tennessee. What you just talked about to us earlier, you get in your vehicle today, you drive down to the mall, you drive over to, I mean, it's not that far going into Clarksville.
That's
going,
right.
You know, into the
Heading
state
down
of
for that
Tennessee.
tax-free weekend coming up here really soon
Yeah.
that everybody enjoys going to. Well, guess what? You head down there to Clarksville, you're now in a different state.
Exactly. You know, and that's what they're talking about. And it says, you know, 18 other states, handheld cell phone use bans. Do not be on your phone. And, you know, the purpose behind that I feel is distracted driving. You think about it. You know, I've heard all the time, people, they'll drive, they'll be drinking coffee, be fooling with the radio on it, trying to read the newspaper on their phone, talking to somebody, you know, a myriad of a lot of different things that you're doing. And none of them involve watching that road. Okay.
Well, we're all so busy, and we all think that we have an excuse. We're all, you know, rushing here or there. Oh, I've got an excuse. I got to go pick up my kids, or oh, supper's running late, or I got to get to work, or, you know, there's so many excuses that we can make. But I've caught myself, the older that I get, you know, you go from being the one that passes everybody and being the one going, well, smarty pants, no, you're not going to get there 30 seconds before I do. You know, you find yourself with a different state of mind kind of the older you get and the more accidents you see.
Well, as busy as our interstates have become lately, it's uncalled for, and boy, it gripes me to see any driver. I mean, it's hard to see a truck, what somebody's doing up there, but you know when you're getting ready to pass one and they're kind of sweaving back and forth, they're probably distracted doing something up there in the cab of that thing. And then sometimes you drive by folks, and guess what? They've got a pad or they've got their phone right on their steering wheel. That is not good.
Well, we just had a huge pileup, you know, this weekend that really cost lives, and it was horrible on I-24. And one of the things that they are contributing to that is that somewhat distraction.
They don't say what,
right?
But
It says distraction, and you know that can mean so many different things these days. It really can.
And if you look at distracted driving, well, and like I said, we all can name a lot things. That can
Oh,
cause
I'm
us to-
guilty. I turn around and yell at my kids on a regular
can-
basis.
Can we be distracted? Okay, that's a topic for another time. But at the same time, I mean, we look at the safety that we have on this with it. Now, is that going to be more of an inconvenience, saying, well, I need to make this phone call and I'm driving, that I'm going to do it? Well, used to be at one point in time, Ty and I are old enough to remember it. You're not, though, Tess, but used to be we didn't have cell phones, did we, Ty?
I remember that. I
So-
shouldn't admit that I remember
We didn't have
that,
seatbelts
but-
in the cars either.
Yeah,
They were there, but we didn't have to wear them.
Exactly. So there used to be a time we didn't have all of this. So it's just like going back to, to those days on it, and we find out the older is really the better. Okay.
No doubt
It's
about
common sense. It really is. A lot of this, when you break it down, don't overthink it. There's during the flooding and that sort of thing, they have that saying that they say, turn around, don't drown. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Pay attention. You're driving.
Well, and I've always used this numerous times. The older I got, the smarter my father became.
Oh, goodness.
That's
My
a good
dad is enjoying you saying that right
Yes,
now, and I bet
so-
his is too.
Yeah. The older I got, the smarter my father became.
Well, that is true wisdom right there. because
Farmersville in Florida are smiling right now.
You hear about your parents, and they tell you this and they tell you that. But boy, I really enjoy driving down the highway when I'm traveling, eating a hamburger or something like that.
I'm
but
the
that's
worst.
distraction. I mean, that is distraction too.
Well, the
but-
purpose. I still remember my father. The purpose on the Sunday afternoon after church, the drive.
Yes.
Wasn't to be on a phone, wasn't to be playing the radio, wasn't to be looking newspaper. It was the family time just to see God's beauty out there.
You're exactly
okay?
right.
Talk to each other.
So yes, talk to each other on it. But anyway, with looking at that, again, Senate Bill 150 went into effect June 2027 on it. But remember what the purpose of the law. Remember safety first and foremost on that, and not only for yourself, for others, law enforcement out there that we have as well. The reciprocity that you look at with the other states such as Tennessee, they have acknowledged the law from 1999 on it. They have that agreement with it, but however, they have not got the reciprocity with the new law that we have. So you need, if you're going to go in other states, you need to have the carry and conceal permit.
What
Well,
about
the
go
part I loved that Ty said a while ago was, you had talked about that, is that, just because you have license for it to be on your hip does not mean that you have the right to use it. And
True.
as far as, being actively shooting it, that's a different story. Carrying it is one thing.
What about stand your ground states? We are not that. That like Florida, they have the stand your ground that is a little bit enhanced, I guess, on this on carrying a weapon, because there was some controversy in the state of Florida.
Yeah, and that's what you get into, and like I was saying, I noticed when one thing, if you try to do just a black and white law, now again, this is my opinion on anything, the law just doesn't fit into pigeonholes
Right.
or whatever or anything. Math and science, you get the same result. 2 + 2 comes out to 4. Okay, there are different things that you look at in the law, and there's different elements that you have of the taking of a life of someone else. Different types of laws on it, because each of them has different particularities that you have for it on that. So to answer your question on it, as another thing that I remember my mother told me, every tub will have to sit on its own bottom. Okay,
Love that.
Yeah, regarding the facts that you look at something on that. So again, I would say, irregardless of where you might be or what you look at, you need to talk with law enforcement. You need to talk with the county attorney's office, the Commonwealth attorney's office, as to what they look at and to what they would see on it. But insofar as a black and white type that you have, any of us can read the law to you, but then the facts have to fit that situation as to what the law looks at.
And as far as in public, make sure you look at the doors and the windows when you walk into a business.
Right.
When in doubt, be looking for it actively.
Exactly on it, because you don't want to create a situation as to what you
And
have.
some are welcoming and some are not.
Right.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're breaking the law to go in there with it if there's a sticker either. You could have the right under the law to go in there. They're just saying they'd rather you not carry it.
True.
And so that's another thing to consider. So,
but no, I hate to keep coming back the old broken record with it on it, but always whatever law you're looking at, first and foremost, read it. Okay, then talk with those that are in authority as to how they look at it, what they would suggest that they would look at. Because I know when I was county attorney, I would ask law enforcement, okay, here's what the law says, and I would talk to law enforcement. What would you do if you came up upon someone like this? And it's different twists that I would get on something as to how they would look at something on it.
Highly subjective, isn't it?
Yes.
I bet you've had an office full of, well, my buddy said I could.
Oh yeah. You get into that, and then that would have me as county attorney to be able to look at, okay, I'm going to look at this. I'm going to prosecute based upon looking at this. Okay, because their job was to arrest and to charge. My job was to prosecute. And then I'd have to look at, okay, based upon A, B, C, and D, what are we looking at? What are we coming up and going for with it? And whether or not I can make A, B, C, and D fit into what the law says beyond a reasonable doubt for, quote, a conviction on something. So we look at that. Again, I can't say it enough on it. Have questions, contact your law enforcement officers. Again, what we're doing here today, or the county attorney's office, Commonwealth's attorney's office, what we're doing here today is just sharing opinions on it, but just be sure that you find from those in the know with the authority.
And Sheriff Hudson and County Attorney Roy Massey, they're glad to talk to you about that when you call them and have any questions. And of course, you can always go online and search, the law, just like you said. And you
Carrie L.V. Wiggins, our Commonwealth attorney, would be glad to help as well.
No doubt.
Well, I know a lot of people are scared to make that phone call sometimes. They say, well, I'm not calling down there to that sheriff's department and asking them nothing. Well, you know what? It's a whole lot better, and I promise you they would much rather you call now than have to deal with the oops, I didn't call later. I wish I would have called. It can only take a couple of minutes. And, of course, finding your classes and that sort of thing, and finding the laws and the little booklets on it and all that kind of, a trip to the courthouse.
They can help you on that as to what you can look at, as to what you need to know. I mean, that's what they're there for, because, like you were saying, they'd rather you know now than to end up them dealing with it later.
Well, we sure do appreciate you hitting on that. I'm not going to let you go yet because we've got a couple of other subjects we're going to throw out there. We're not going to get Bridgie Miller in the studio and let him go that quick.
No,
Are you kidding me?
We're going to maximize the opportunity.
Absolutely. 8:37 with Tess and Ty. We'll be back in just a few minutes on 103.3 WPKY. Trice Hughes has over 120 pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs. And, of course, at Trice Hughes, if they don't have what you're looking for, they can find it. With their special software, they can show you pictures of the vehicle that you're looking for, order a Carfax report or anything else that you would like to know about the vehicle before you buy it. You don't have to wait till it's sitting in the driveway. Just call Trice Hughes at 270-896-0753. Talk to any of the salesmen, tell them what you're looking for, and let them get to work for you. If you're looking for a new car, truck, or SUV, the process is all the same. Give them a call, 270-896-0753, and they will get it for you. Trice Hughes wants your business, so give Trice a try. Also, check out their new inventory on TriceHughesGM.com or visit the dealership on Highway 91 North in Princeton. $1580 103.3 WPKY, and I'm having a ball today, and I'm sure Ty is as well. Of course, retired county attorney Bridgie Miller is in with us this morning.
We're learning
I'm
a lot.
not used to him being retired yet, and I bet he's not either. He's probably not had enough to be. I don't think you don't ever slow down, even when you retire.
I highly recommend retirement. Okay, let me say that. I highly recommend retirement on that.
Well, I will admit, when I called him the other day, he was in the barn. And I said, that's my favorite place. I love to be in the barn and out in the middle of nowhere. And
I was with my horse on it, and yes, I'm like I said, but I've said this though. I thank the good Lord for allowing me to practice law for 34 years. I thank the good Lord and the people of Caldwell County for electing me 6 terms as county attorney in my community. You know, few people get to be able to work in their hometown, to be able to have a job that they really want, and to enjoy it. And I had all 3 of them. And I thank the good Lord for that, and the people of Caldwell County that elected me 6 times to be able to do this.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, and like I said, I praise God for that on it. But I always said that time moves on, time needs to go, and you know, we need to go with it on it, and we go from there and we do what we need to do on it. But I thank you for the kind words. But I have, like I said, I'm highly enjoying what I'm doing.
Great to have you visiting with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, and you know, you and I know that animals are really dear to your heart. And you know, when you were here last time, we had talked a little bit about water and sun. You know, it's summertime. How much water that they really consume, the things that they need. Shade. You know, shade is important to us, and shade's important to them. There's a lot of those needs that, you know, need to be met. And there's actually laws saying that you need to do that as a responsible pet owner,
well,
correct?
Let me just give you, yes, exactly. There are laws out there on it, and, you know, and I've looked at this on any law. Laws are only as good if they're enforced, okay, on what you need to look at on it. And to give you an example, my daughter's at the campground with her family this week. Well, she was concerned, and rightfully so, taking their dog down there, as hot as it was going to be, you know, down at the campground. There's just so much air conditioning can do in a small confined spaces. So what did she do? She's brought her dog up here to us, to Janice and I, for this week on it. He has placed a roam on it. He's got air conditioning in the house, and she did the right thing. But that's what you're getting back to on it, the cruelty to animals charge that we look at. You know, fair to give. The one I look at, when you think of cruelty to animals, sometimes people think, oh, you've just, you know, you beat a dog, you've mutilated it. Yes, that's cruelty to animals. But also cruelty to animals as well comes into where you fail to give adequate food, shelter, hydration, and taking care of them. And animals that when you travel and you stop a vehicle and you eat, remember that dog is in the vehicle as well. Doesn't need to be rolled up. And I mean, it goes also same thing with you. Windows doesn't need to be rolled up on it to where it's just blistering, because it gets so much hotter in there so quicker on that. Remember your animals when you're traveling on it, and you know, with what they need rest stops as well. They need water as well with it. So, you know, let's be sure that we look at that. Same thing. I've got my horse. I look at the same thing, being able to take care of him and being sure he's got plenty of food, hay, water on it. That, you know, they can get hot too.
Well, you know, when you say that, when you think about it, as a kid, one of my favorite, I don't know about you, I guess I won't speak for you, Ty. I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite science projects is you go out with a glass underneath the sun. It could be a magnifying glass. We actually did it with a drinking glass and that is sort of thing. And what happens when you set that on the grass or cardboard or something like that for a little while underneath the sun? It starts a fire. It will start to smoke. And now think about what you're doing when you roll those windows up on that car.
That's
How many glasses are there, you know, all the way around that vehicle? And when you do that, you know, hey, that it's like an oven, literally like an oven.
Exactly.
And it heats it up.
And dark
When you talk about
interiors.
camping, there's actually ovens that you can take camping that all you do is you set them out in the sun and they heat up, but they do it with the aluminum foil, you know. So I mean, that's something to think about. If you know, would you really want to set a magnifying glass on top of your favorite, you know, fur baby and say, here you go, sit out in the sun with it? Because that's what you're doing when you put them in a locked car with all the windows rolled up.
Exactly. And you know, and so be cognizant of your animals as to what they have, what they're doing, and you know, and for their needs as well, you know, because you think about, well, how often I've got a bottle of water with me right here. I probably gone to it 4 times. Okay, why not your dog? Why not your cat? Why not, you know, they will do the same thing on it. Your horse that you have on that. I know it brought me. I was out driving one of what we call the old country roads or something the other day.
I live on those.
Okay, and I saw somebody out with their horse riding, and I thought that's really great. But my first and foremost went back to my mind. There's a statute, we talked about this before on it, Tess, on it, that you don't startle an animal out there. You've got to be cautious around them. And I've always said, personally, for me, my idea, they have the priority. You've got to be careful. You can't just be going by them or lickety-split, and gunning it in your vehicle. Do not startle the animal when you go by, because like I said, they are, or that is an animal. Okay?
Well,
so
and it's
careful.
not funny.
No, it's not.
A lot of them say, "Oh, well, watch this. I'm going to scare the horse." That's just not funny, and it's not funny for the horse. It can hurt, injure, kill the horse. Do the same thing for the person that's riding, and just because they're pulling a wagon does not make it any safer for you to do those things or to ride up on them.
Someone told me one time, you've never ridden a horse for consistency for a long period of time, or don't call yourself a horseman unless you've fallen off a horse.
Oh, yes.
Well, I guess I'm very consistent at it, because I have fallen off a horse, several times before and stuff. I guess due to my lack of athletic ability or what have you. But at the same point in time, you're right. It's not funny. It's a safety issue that you look at. And we've talked about all through this segment about safety that we look at and what we need to be doing. But there's nothing wrong with having fun, providing it's legal and providing it's safe. Okay.
Fun's good.
Yeah, fun's good, and that's what it's. You need to have that. It's good for you. But let's be sure it's just as easy to be safe and having fun and being legal when having fun. So
well, you and I had talked about the helmets before too.
Yes.
There's equine helmets, and I know you think you're not cool when you're riding around with a helmet on. However, that could really save your noggin.
That's true. That's true.
Well, let's. You talked about having fun and a good time. Of course, we're going to be celebrating our country's independence on Thursday, and boy, we're going to be celebrating with fireworks and all kinds of stuff here around town. And always a little bit of we love our fireworks and we want to celebrate. But I guess out of respect, let's remind folks a little bit about how we should use that kind of ordinance and those kind of things within our city limits and elsewhere. Be careful, there's grass out in fields out in the country. So what kind of tips and what would you tell us about that kind of use?
There is a noise ordinance in town for this.
I think, and again, I just remember just seeing it, and I know you all have had it and probably have talked about it. Mayor Young, I believe, has said something that after a certain time, what was the time? Is it 10 o'clock? I can't remember.
I didn't see it. I think
it's 10 o'clock.
Yeah, I think it was 10 o'clock, yes.
Okay, then they're going to, if you're setting off fireworks, there is a noise ordinance,
right.
And I believe it's KRS 227, something like that, on excessive noise going on. Because, while you want to celebrate, you want to also be cognizant of those individuals around you. But you raised a good point that I'd like to talk about. And again, I keep going back to my days as county attorney. I had someone contact me one time, and they were saying, Bridgie, I didn't want to say anything, but I had this concern or whatever, and nothing happened, but so-and-so was setting fireworks off, and it was coming over my house, and I saw some of them fall on my roof, Well, that's not good. And I was thinking, yeah, that's true. That is not good or whatever like that. And just throwing that, now nothing happened or anything like that or whatever. But, but let's think about it. You had talked about with it when you were saying the grass out there and we're probably not going to be looking at any type of rain that we're having significantly to be. I know that seems odd right now with what we've had last couple of weeks, but that can start fires. Be careful as to what you're doing, what you're looking at. Stay out there with it on. And the same thing if you're firing it over a house, structure, whatever like that. Remember the roof. I mean, that's putting fire on a roof.
Even with the rain, just because the ground is saturated doesn't mean that the hay bales are wet. that it falls
true.
into, or that, these dried wheat fields, when they're cut off and ready to go into straw, maybe we've had some wet weather and we haven't been able to do that due to the ground saturation. But that doesn't mean that all those nice dried stalks sitting way above the ground are soaking wet.
Or the hypersensitivity of animals as well.
right.
That's a big one.
To be able to look at that. Let's say, because generally one reason why I always knew the fire alarm would go off, not that I'd hear the fire alarm, I'd hear the surrounding dogs would go, because they have that super sensitive hearing. And so let's be cognizant of your animals as well as to what you're looking at. Be sure you check on them that because you might know what it is, but they know.
And if they are hypersensitive, then take precaution to make sure that they're safe and secure so that you don't have to go looking for them. I know we get reports from the animal shelter, especially this time of year when we were celebrating with the fireworks, that a few more of our friends are getting lost, or they run away or get spooked. So we can still celebrate a great Independence Day with our friends and families, but remind everybody just to be cautious and responsible.
Well, and Ty, that's a good thing that you brought up. We can still have a great Independence Day. We need to remember what the Independence Day is and what we look at. And one thing that I've always tried to remember, we need to be ever so cognizant, and I'm glad we live in the community that we have Memorial Day and also Veterans Day. We have services on the courthouse steps about those that served in uniform, those that served the country. When called, they went, and when the service was over with, all of them didn't come home, okay? And we need to remember that. And the slogan I think I've heard that's all gave some gave all. So let's remember the veterans as what they did, so we can come up and do what we do right here. To be able, they fought for this country, the freedom that they have on, and this is founding of our country. And I've always said, God had his hand in the founding of this country on that. Let's celebrate him. Let's celebrate the United States of America on it, the men and women that died, that fought, that served for this country. And all of us as Americans should have that one thing, patriotism. So let's do that and remember what the 4th of July is about.
And if you haven't done it, usually the Historical Society, Robert Ward, they go down to the Planters Park, usually every 4th of July.
It will be this 4th of July as well.
And they will be reading the Declaration of Independence. It doesn't take very long. It's an awesome ceremony. Usually they ring the Liberty Bell. When you get done, you'll get a chance to do that. But, boy, it's nice to get out and gather together and hear that document read. And it's what an important, beautiful document that is.
The history of this country. That's what we need to remember, why it was founded, and the liberties that we have that we just at times take for granted as to what
carrying concealed deadly weapons.
Exactly.
There you go.
And also being able to do certain things on it. The laws that we have that are there for our protection, for our safeguards on it, for our safety with it. But have a great 4th of July and celebrate that. But let's try to remember why we are celebrating it.
No doubt
I
about it.
absolutely agree. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Come back and see us now. You hear?
Well, I'll tell you when called, I'd love to come back. Thank you both for being able to do this. I love the conversations back and forth. What a great job you all are doing here, and appreciate that. And again, thank you for having me. Love to be here.
Oh, I love him. Boy, he can come back every day.
Oh, sure.
Every day. I'm telling you, it'll be Bridgie Miller Day.
Bridgie, thank you so much.
Thank you
for
so
Happy
much.
Day.
You too,
8:58 with Tess and Ty, and of course, stick around. Still to come this week. We've got tons of guests heading our way for Coffee Talk this week.
Big
Trimble
week.
Farms. I'm so excited. Of course, I might have known Ben Trimble just a minute. Just a minute. We might have gone to school together, back in Abraham Lincoln's days.
I don't know if it was that long.
Well, it might have been close. But Trimble Farms is going to be with us this week. And, of course, they're also going to talk about the farmers market. And we're going to talk about a couple of problem spots out in the garden. If you have that, they're going to help us out with that.
Wealth of information. Presley Lamb will be here from Fredonia First Baptist Church. Going to be talking about Thunder in the Valley, July 3rd, just one of the many firework events and Independence Day celebrations. That
I have been to that one on Thunder in the Valley. That is awesome with what they do.
They do a great job.
Presley Lamb and Fredonia First Baptist Church. Let me tell you, you talk about a show. That's a show in the valley that they put on, and to be able to have people from everywhere
It's
come
thunder.
to that, it's definitely thunder in the valley. So I would encourage individuals to go, and that's celebrating the 4th of July as well.
Well, I'm excited about that. And of course, on 4th of July, right here on the Sideline Report with Todd Griffin, Bobby Joe Thatcher from Youth Incorporated is going to be here. And of course, they've got a big ta-da on 4th of July at the park down there, correct?
I believe so.
And so we're going to talk more about that this week. And, of course, tomorrow we're going to update you on the fireworks festivities all over the place so that you can kind of make your plans to go where you need to go. Sean Meston, of course, will be here, the director of the Chamber of Commerce. Of course, our Pet of the Week will be here. Morning View Farms, therapist Carrie Janes will be with us. I mean, we are jam-packed this week.
Yeah, and we have our extension program on Wednesday, and Dwayne Vincent will be here as well to talk about a recent award he won. So huge week on Coffee Talk.
Stick around. Audrey Lamb is going to be up here in just a few minutes. She's going to get you caught up on all things news, and Todd will have you caught up on all things sports. 103.3 WPKY.